late start. How is everybody? How's everybody doing? Let's see. I always forget to mention this, so I'm going to try to do a better job. Uh, if you want to check me out on Patreon, um, it's patreon.com/guitar-tips-pro, or you can just go to guitartipspro.com as well. Oh, bring the microphone in a little bit. Let me know how the sound is and how it's going. I'm going to play a little bit, and I would love some questions. That's always the most fun part of these, for me anyway, is questions. Thank you, David. Hey, Ben. Florian, hey. Steve says, any tips on how to translate piano transcription to guitar like Monk's solo on Dinah? Well, I don't know that one specifically. The couple of Monk tunes that I've really tried to get onto the guitar, at least in recent-ish times, have been Panonica and Ugly Beauty. They're hard to it's hard to translate that stuff. There's a book of Monk's tunes that was it was put together by Steve Cardenas, and I don't have it on my shelf here. Otherwise, I'd hold it up and show it to you. But that's a really good resource, um, at least as far as like getting to the heart of what the tunes are on paper. I mean, that's just a whole thing unto itself. I think it's hard to get some of Monk's music on paper. So when you see Monk charts in the Real Book or elsewhere, I think they sometimes just they don't get to the heart of what the tune is sometimes because they're kind of stuck in more traditional ways of thinking about jazz and jazz harmony. Um, but as far as like getting it onto the guitar, I think I wouldn't try to do things too literally. Um, I would just try to find some of his voicings when you can, and some of his gestures when you can, and just be happy with the things that you can get to, rather than lamenting all the things that you can't get to. Like that's just the first bar of Panonica, right? There's already two things in there that you could take away. That C major 7 voicing is pretty unusual. It's C, G, D, B. At least that's how I hear it. So it's like a C major 9. It's got the 9 and it's got the major 7. You could also think of it as C major 7 sus 2 because instead there's no 3. It's got 2 instead of 3. So if you just play that as C major 7 like this or this, then you're missing the specificity of that beautiful sound with no third in it. So that's one thing we can do on the guitar is try to find those voicings that like there's no third here. Another way to look at this is it's a G triad, open spread out G triad over C. You know, in a different context, that almost might sound like a Steely Dan kind of voicing. But in Monk, it's just a nice voicing for major 7. And then there's this on the E note, he harmonizes it with the major 2nd interval. So you've got 2 and 3 right next to each other. This is not as nice on the guitar as I think it sounds when Monk is at the piano, but it's an idea. And here Monk would play some kind of whole tone run, which I've never been able to really get that on the guitar. I'm sure guitar players have, but they're more enterprising than I am. But I'll try to just throw in like a little whole tone run, or just a suggestion of it without it. Sorry, I've got something in my eye. I think that's really the answer, Stephen, is that there has to be, some of it has to be impressionistic and not so literal. And then Ugly Beauty, this is another voicing that has no third in it. Most guitar players would play this G13 flat 9 with the B in it. So top to bottom, E, B, G sharp, like an E triad, and then F, and then G on the bottom. But Monk would leave out the third, or again, that's how it sounds to me. And it's more open. So those are two kind of monkish sounds, having chords with a hole in it unexpectedly, and then also having things that are more clustery unexpectedly. There's one more chord in there that might be worth showing you in Ugly Beauty. This little chord here to harmonize the B flat note is E flat, A, D flat, B flat. So that's maybe E flat 7, flat 5, but having the flat 5 below, an octave below the 5, is a really particular sound. Again, there's that 13 flat 9 chord without the third in it, A flat this time. And that's how I play the ending there, first ending. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know Dinah, so I can't address that. But those are the things that I think would be monkish, those kind of sounds. And if you find a good way to play whole tone runs, that's definitely a spice, a well-used spice in the monk spice rack. Good luck. Glenn Michael, thank you. I'm glad the guitar is sounding good. Having trouble with piano intro to Wayne Shorter's Juju. Oh man, that is something I don't know enough to address. So I'm sorry I can't help with that. But I'll check it out. Maybe I can offer something next time. Man, this is really driving me crazy. Got something in my eye. Gary Whitner book, Monk for Guitar. Ben, I haven't seen that one, but if you say it's cool, then I bet it is cool. Oh man, Dr. Smith. Are you a doctor? Is it Dr. Smith or is it Dr. Smith? The band I play in covers Give Me One Reason. I always enjoy playing the solo. I'd love to see you play it sometime. Man, that's a cool request. I don't know it off the top of my head. I wish I did. I mean, I can tell you just generally stuff I was thinking about in that time. It's in F sharp, it's a 12-bar blues in F sharp. And I was really trying to kind of blur the two, the major pentatonic and the minor pentatonic. and not have it sound so much like I'm shifting gears when I switch between the two, but just try to think of it as all um, you know, I mean, that's a very Kenny Burrell thing and also a very BB King thing to just not have it be, but more have lines that blend those two things. Even if you have like the minor third and the major sixth, neither one of the scale, those two scales, the major pentatonic and the minor pentatonic, has both of those both of those scale tones. If you have the minor third, usually we have the flat seven, and if we have the major third, we usually get the flat six. I mean the natural six. But to get the minor third and the natural six is one way to kind of blend those two sounds. And also with just like little bends that kind of blur the line between minor and major. And I got to play one of my, I don't play this lick that much anymore, but at that time that was a lick I played a lot. So if you were in F sharp, you do like a small bend here, then go up 2 frets, no bend, and then a little more aggressive bend there. It's another thing I like. I don't know where these even came from. I'm sure I stole them somewhere. That's a sound I like a lot. That's BB King. I don't know that that's exactly in that solo of mine, but anyway, I should relearn it. I think there might be a video that I made on YouTube of me playing that solo. Now that I think about it, that might exist. So do a search for that, Mr. Smith or Miss Smith. I don't know. I don't know that much about you, Smith, but I'm just yeah. When you're in the BB box and slide down, just slide down. That I have trouble with. It's one of the best major matter pentatonics out there. Oh man. Well, see if you can find that video. I do think I made a video for how to play that solo. But I can't play it off the top of my head right now. Britt, morning. Any suggestions for how to adjust your tone electric from tweaking, perfecting in the practice room solo to then playing with other instruments and playing in different venues? Britt, that is I think a huge thing to deal with, because what sounds good in the does not always translate to playing with other people, in room, or on stage. It's just as soon as you introduce bass and drums and vocal, um, a lot of the guitar register kind of overlaps frequencies onto vocal frequencies, especially if a guy is singing, you're going to be in that range. But if a girl is singing, either way, you have a danger of getting into that frequency range. Bass, anything down here is kind of in bass range, and in drum range, I guess could be anything really, depending on how the drummer has tuned their kit. So, um, I would say that the first thing I would do is listen. So when you get to the practice room or the sound check or the studio or whatever you're doing, listen to what's happening and let go of whatever you think your tone is supposed to be. It really has to work. You can't. The drummer is not going to retune their drums to accommodate your awesome guitar tone. And it's always a compromise. If you really listen to records, oftentimes there's the illusion that everybody sounds big, but really usually something is made to sound smaller so that something else can sound bigger, and that's the compromise. So you have to let go of your ego, Britt. I don't think that's a big issue for you, particularly like, hey man, this is my sound. Everybody has to deal with it. But we all are guilty of that to some extent. So then listen and make adjustments. Let's see. EQ pedal is handy to have. I'm hoping there it is. My camera will focus on the thing I'm holding. Will it? We'll see. I'm new at I'm new at this. I got a fancy camera and I'm just learning how to use it. But anyway, an EQ pedal can really be useful. Um, and try at home to see if you can get a sound that's a little smaller or clearer or tighter or whatever. Like experiment with those things if you can. Like look around on YouTube. Sometimes you can find um I forget what the good search terms are, but like you can find the original guitar track from a Beatles recording or a Zeppelin recording or stuff like that, and it might surprise you what those tones actually sound like. So that's something. Another thing is play along with records. Um, I mentioned that I might have mentioned this last week. I feel like I've talked about it recently. I was recently trying to play along with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers' greatest hits. I put on headphones. I was going through my little um, interface, and I had set up kind of an ampy sound in Logic. So I was trying to dial in like a Tweed Deluxe kind of sound with a little bit of EQ and compression and some processing and stuff. Trying to get like a studio quality electric guitar sound through a deluxe or a Tweed Deluxe kind of thing, and that can be really informative. Yeah, I don't know. I should have started with this. Listen to records, play along with records, and try to get a sound that sits you in the band. Of course, it's different because it's headphones and you're playing along with a recording that's been mastered, and that's different. But at least I think it gets you comfortable with the notion of what does compression do? What does EQ do? What does 250 hertz sound like? What does 1,000 hertz or 1K sound like? What does 4K sound like? What if I add some? What if I subtract some? So it gets you beyond, whatever the knobs are on the guitar or your amp, but actually thinking about sound more like an engineer, which I think is useful in those kind of situations. In a rehearsal, you probably don't have an engineer helping you, uh, so you have to do that job for yourself. So try that stuff out, Britt. Okay. Phil King. Hey, Phil King. Paul Owens. As a beginner, oh, wait, let me back up. I should try to do these in order. Avram Chaim says, what is the path to stretching fingers and also gaining ability to um, incorporate wider chords smoothly? I tried to do a 4 fret bar and feels impossible to play smoothly. Um, yeah. Uh, hmm. Well, that's tough. That's a tough one. Warm up first before you play if you can. I don't do any like pulling on my finger kind of stretchy things like that. But I mean, I have done that sometimes, but that's not part of my routine these days. What I try to do just to get some uh, energy going and some blood going to my fingers. A lot of times I'll do this as a warm up. It's out of this book, this Bertancini book. There's a section where he talks about horizontal chromatic exercises, which is what I just did, and doing that on each string up and back. That's more about position shifting and won't do anything to stretch your hands. But my point is make sure you're warmed up before you do anything. So I'll do that for a little bit. And then there's also these position shifts. These single position things. This is kind of simple stuff. And again, doesn't do anything to stretch your fingers, but it just gets you warmed up. Now I'll show you something that will give you a stretch. And it's from Miles Okazaki's book, The Fundamentals of Guitar. And it's a chromatic thing. I'm going to hold this up so you can see it. It's playing not just this kind of sort of chromatic, but fully chromatic by reaching out on the way up. And then on the way back down, reaching with your pinky on the way down. So and if you do that, start at the fifth fret. It's a good kind of middle ground. You could try it up here. You could try it down lower. And that will get you a little more stretch on either side this way. Um, let's see, what else has been helpful? Mm, well, you mentioned a bar thing. This is not a stretch thing, but it is helpful with bars. In the Bertancini book, when you do this exercise, he also has a variation where you hold this bar and you play this. So that's pretty useful, I think, for developing a good, strong bar. There's this book, I seem to mention it a lot. It's by Brett Wilmot. That's BretWillmott. And the book is called Mel Bay's Complete Book of Harmony Theory and Scales, or something like that, or voice leading. I forget. It's a very long, clunky title, but it's a Mel Bay publication of a Brett Wilmot book. And it's all about drop two voicings and their inversions. And just by virtue of learning all these on the middle strings and to be able to play them cleanly, especially some of these inversions, like this is really tough. And when you're doing like major 7 sharp 5, like that, and then it's not easy, this chord. I'm playing E, B, C, G sharp up here. It's more of a crunch issue than a stretch issue. But if you work through the Brett Wilmot book, especially just the first chapter or so, just without even getting into the applications of all the chords, just learning the inversions of all the drop twos, not just the basic major 7, minor 7, but also less common ones like major 7 flat 5, major 7 sharp 5, things like that. I think I forget sometimes that was a book that I worked out of a lot. Um, and when I recommend it, it's usually for the application of what you can do with those chords. But as far as like a workout goes, I think it's a good workout for the left hand to learn all those chords and really be able to play them. Hope that's helpful. Good luck, Avraham. Um, Abraham. As a beginner, when I'm trying to learn a new piece, there's tension between getting a part down or pushing forward and learning more of the tune. Paul Owens, tell me more. What kind of tune are we talking about? Um, tell me more, and then I'll see if I can give a better answer or give you an answer. I haven't given any answer yet. Glenn Michael Thompson says parametric EQs help a lot, particularly with piezo pickups or electric or acoustic guitar. Yeah. Um, right. So if you don't have a parametric, but you're Brit and you want to work on it, again, like you can experiment in Logic and just try to get a sense of what each of the frequencies sounds like. You might know this already, but I'm always surprised when I talk with students about this, how many of them don't realize this. But those frequencies on an EQ, um, they're pitches. So if you look at this, I don't know if you can see the pitches there, but like there's a slider that says 400. Well, we know that 440 is this, right? That's a 440. So that gives you an idea of if you push up the 400 on your EQ, and anything in this pitch range is going to be louder or is going to be softer if you bring it down. So we all guitar players need to start to learn the connection between the numbers on a parametric or a graphic EQ and what the actual sound is. Um, and then how that becomes useful when playing with other people. That's why I say playing with a record could be informative. It's not going to be exactly the same, because playing with a fully mastered record and comparing it to your DI guitar tone, it's not the same as being in a room with people, but you'll start to get a sense of what the numbers mean. Okay, VV, when you alternate picking with odd number of notes per string, how do you switch between strings? E.g., 3 notes on the 5th string, and then you need to play one upstroke on the 4th string. Yeah, I tend to be pretty down up, no matter what. Um, I don't know that that's the best way to do it, but it's what I do because it's what I've played that way for so many years, that when I've tried to to play in a more efficient picking way, I know what you're talking about. It's uh I pick down up. Another way to look at it, because usually what happens when people think about how to pick more efficiently, they think about what you're talking about, like how do I decide if I'm doing down up, if I'm already going down, should I keep going down? When I was younger, for a while I was into these 3 note per string kinds of ways of playing the scales, which solves a little bit of that just because there's symmetry. It doesn't exactly work out for economy picking, but it just means that every string has the same thing on it, 3 notes. So that's one thing to think about. Well, what I was going to say is that not everyone seems to think about is that, yeah, you could change what you're doing in your left hand to accommodate if you feel like what you're doing in your right hand makes sense and feels good. um, I was just watching this video yesterday where George Benson was being interviewed by Jody Fisher. Jody Fisher is a great jazz guitar player who was at the National Guitar Workshop for many years when I was there teaching. And anyway, he did a video with George Benson. I forget what it's called, but if you look around on YouTube, just type in George Benson, Jody Fisher, and you'll find it. And he talks about Benson talks about some of his unusual left hand forms, like the way he shifts from position, moves around. Because if you watch his left hand, he is pretty unusual, I think, in the way he gets around on the guitar. And it was as a way to, at least if I understand what he said in the video, his left hand fingering was a way to get the most out of the way that he was already moving in his right hand. And that totally makes sense to me. So I think it's interesting not to look at it as a problem of like, how do I fix my right hand to accommodate my left hand? But they're part of a team. So you might want to think about how you're fingering the scales as well as how, what the mechanics of the right hand thing are, for what it's worth. Ben, crunches are harder than stretches for me. Yeah, I struggle with that too. Um, Mel Bays, yeah, that's totally right. Um, that's the name of the book. Thank you. I'm clicking around here. I hope I'm not accidentally reporting anyone for malicious whatevers. I'm going to mention one more time my Patreon thing. Um, it's a thing that I do, and you might want to check it out. So there's the link for it if you want to check it out. Hi to Brazil. Oh, wow. Will Colative. Colative. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but hi to Brazil. Uh, um, let's see. What other questions? I want to encourage you, if you're feeling shy about asking something, go ahead and ask it. Because I have to be off. I can be here for about 10 more minutes. And so sometimes I go over an hour, but I can't do that today because I have a student that I'm going to teach. So um, let's see. Oh, wow. Carl Kerfoot says, any advice for anyone starting an educational guitar YouTube channel? Um, that's a good question. I'm not, I've to be really honest, I feel, well, I'm glad to tell you my advice, but I think you should ask that question to other people too. Um, I think you need to learn to be a good storyteller. Uh, Information is everywhere. Nobody is mystified by what notes are in the D Dorian mode, for example, or if somebody wants to play a John Mayer song, there's that's not a mystery. You can already find that. So the people that I like the most are really good um, storytellers. They think about what they're going to say, and they're able to say it in a way that keeps you along for the ride. So I would look for people like that, not only um, in the guitar thing, but just anybody teaching anything on YouTube. Yeah, learn to be a good storyteller, and if you're not sure how to do that, um, look for that. Look for videos on how to be a good storyteller. So I think that's one thing. As far as like how to get the most out of the algorithms and gain followers, I really don't um, have great advice there. But my advice would just be more about um, the content itself. I think you should try to be the most you that you can, and not try to be something for everybody. Like Ben Levin, I don't know if you've checked him out, but his content is very uh, odd. His whole aesthetic on, visually, it's kind of like Tim and Eric aesthetic a little bit. It's not going to be for everybody. If you're going to learn basic theory, but I love it. It's what he's doing is incredible, but it's very him. I think. I mean, I don't know him, but it's either very much him or it's very much this character of the character Ben Levin that he's created, or maybe it's somewhere in between. Um, mm, yeah, all of so be the most you that you can be, and that's a way to set yourself apart, in the look of what you're doing, in the things that you choose to teach, and in the ways that you choose to teach them. I think what I wouldn't do is try to aim for the middle ground, um, because well, it's not that fun. It's not that interesting, and so even like your choice of camera, your choice of lighting, I say this, I know full well that my look here is totally boring. Um, it is what it is, but I would encourage you to think about the things that you uh, can teach and the things that you can amplify about the way that you present it. Those would be the things I would think about. If you're trying to get, 1 million followers, I don't know. There's other people I would ask about how to do that. But the last thing I'll say about it is I would totally encourage you to try it. It's a very, I think, uh, low risk proposition. Start a YouTube channel, put some stuff up, see what happens. That's how I started doing stuff in 2014. I put up my first guitar tips video. I had done some other things prior to that. I have a few things that are called 5-minute lessons, but I started the guitar tips channel in 2014. I changed the format over time. I changed the frequency with which I did it. I changed the look, partly because I was changing locations. I was moving, doing different things. Just try stuff. You can always take stuff down. You can always edit stuff and re-upload it. It's very wide open. But if you really want to be serious about just getting tons of followers, that would be a question for somebody else. Um, let's see. Glenn Michael Thompson, a few words on triad pairs, and also, let's see, Norahiro Kikuta. Um, how do you approach when getting drop two voicing, especially when you get out from drop two voicing, especially when you play solo? Okay, these are two really good questions. I'm going to answer both of these, and then I will need to stop. So, how do you approach? Okay, so I'll approach that. How do you approach when you get out from drop two voicing, especially when you play solo guitar? Yeah, drop two voicings are obviously the go-to sounds. Um, they work for a lot of things. Um, just think about what other sounds you could use. You could use triads. So I'm going to play, um, I don't know. I'm just going to play a C major scale. And we'll pretend that that's a beautiful melody. So you could just do it with dyads, like thirds, or sixths. Uh, you could do it with triads. You could do it with uh, some other intervallic thing like fourths. So those are lots of different voicing types, other more kind of clustery things. You could try to have it be more contrapuntal. You can just play it with no harmony at all. You could try to get just some occasional lower notes. Uh, which is maybe more how I like to play, so that it's just more, it's not just a constant sound. It's, yeah, you can also use open strings sometimes. That's a nice thing. In the key of C, that's pretty easy. In some other keys, you'd have to figure it out. Um, yeah, listen to solo guitar records, see what people are up to. Keep a notebook, steal ideas. You don't have to transcribe something literally. You could just transcribe the idea. And sometimes just tiny bit of harmony can go a long way. Easy to overlook that. Rudolph Pyatt asked, "Do you still use a Fender Princeton?" Uh, sort of. I moved from LA to New York in September, and I couldn't bring a lot with me. I left a lot in storage, and I also left some things with friends. So I used to have a bunch of Princetons. I just have one now. It's a 1968 um, Princeton Reverb with the drip edge thing around the grill cloth. I left it with my friend Tyler Chester. He's a producer in LA, so it's getting used on some records, but I don't have it in New York. My go-to amp is still a 60. Well, I have two of them now. I have a 62 and a 63 uh, Deluxe, Brown era Fender Deluxe. You can't really see it, but it's here under my aux, which is under cloth. But yeah, I don't have it turned on or plugged in. Maybe next time I do this, I'll do electric. I love that amp. So I have one here in New York, and I have one in LA, and I also have a. I'm turning my laptop, but the camera's over there. Okay, I have a Benson Nathan Jr. that is very different from a Princeton Reverb, but it's similar in size and the ease with which you can get great sounds out of it. So that's my kind of current uh, smaller amp. Thanks, Rudolph. Yes, I love Princeton Reverbs. I think they're great amps. Uh, get one if you can, especially if you can get an old one. Um, a few words on triad pairs. Yeah, triad pairs. So the main thing I would say, if I could just say a few words about triad pairs, let's say you want to solo over C with some color. So obviously you can use any of the diatonic triads associated with the C major scale or the C Lydian scale, or any other C majory kind of scale. C harmonic major is another option. Um, and anytime you have a 7-note scale, there are 7 triads. So in the key of C, if you're playing C major, the triads are C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished. And any one of those will have a certain kind of sound over C. And when you take a pair of them, then you can start to create uh, more either harmonic stuff. So I'm alternating there between D minor and E minor. You could really pick any two triads, but as a general rule, I try to pick two that are right next to each other within the scale, like D minor and E minor, because then you know there's no overlap. You've got six different tones: E, G, B, A, F, D, B, E, G, F, D, A. So you get like a six note scale. Another that you could create melodies or harmony out of. Another kind of rule of thumb is to try to pick two triads that don't contain the root. That I also did there. D minor doesn't have C in it. E minor doesn't have C in it. Um, so that's kind of a nice way to go. Uh, but just experiment that, like, write some lines that use it. Like, don't count on yourself to just make up great triad pair licks on the spot. Get out a piece of paper, or if you're not into writing stuff down, get out your phone or a recorder or something, and make up some things that you can try out and then go back to see what works. You have to uh, just having like a spreadsheet isn't, I don't think, is the answer. It's more about trying stuff, seeing what works, experiment, uh, lather, rinse, repeat. I've got to run. I've got to go teach a guitar lesson. Thanks everyone for being here. I'll mention it one more time. I've got a Patreon thing. It's called Guitar Tips Pro. You can check it out. I know some of you are already patrons, which I appreciate. I also appreciate you being here with me on YouTube. I'll be back next week, and I'll play some electric, which I haven't done in a while. Thanks, everybody.